Merry Christmas!
Hi, this is Chris from Leicester Till I Die. Thank you for watching and listening. Have a very Merry Christmas and Happy New Year.
This is your host, Chris.
No! God, please, no! No!
I know, I'm sorry, but he's cheap and available.
How rude!
Indeed. Oh, look at me. Hang on. Let me just pop a Viagra in. There we go. You see, it always works. If anything's going to get me up in the mornings, a Viagra does it. Or even in the evenings, or whatever time of day it is. Talking of which, good evening, good afternoon, good morning, good night, good day, goodbye, hello. Wherever you are in the world, as I always say, one of those will apply to you. How's your Christmas? Have you got your Christmas tree up? As you know, last week I went out and bought one, and I said to the guy in the shop said to me when I bought it, he said, "You're going to put that up yourself?" I said, "No, I thought about the living room." I may have said that before, but it's a good one, and if I always say a good joke is worth repeating. This is LTID. I can see Tom grimacing in the green room. This is LTID TV. Honestly, it's amazing when you make yourself a coffee with a whiskey in it, what difference it makes. There we go. This is LTID TV1 from Leicester Till I Die. Thank you for joining us live on YouTube, if that is how you are watching, or if you are listening live on YouTube podcast or via your favourite podcast platform, whichever that may be. Thank you very much for lending us your ears. Get your comments in, join in the chat. We'll try and gloss over the Leicester result, but we are going to have to talk about it, I'm afraid. We've got the news, and of course later on we will be seeing Toms T.I.T.A.S.S. And that is worth hanging around for, I'll tell you. It's, he says he gets his ass out just for a joke. Well, I tell you what, it cracks me up. Hello, Cheeky.
Hello, mate. I sometimes wonder if we should be post-watershed, with some of the things that come out in this show. I mean, Viagra for morning glories, mate, to keep you up. I don't know what else we're going to be coming out with tonight.
You'd be, well, your tits and ass, I think, later on.
Always ready to go.
This show should always be post-watershed. In fact, it should be even late. It should be post-midnight, I think.
We're going to move it to OnlyFans at some point, guys. We got an audience, because it's going to have to be behind a paywall. Literally. We're going to go full-blown uncensored then.
You can full-blown wherever you want. You're not doing that with me.
I was going to say, we've still got to talk about Danny Ward, haven't we? But we'll get to that.
We have. And I need a buzzer that I can sort of beep out all the swear words. Well, let's just say a few hellos. Joe was in quite early. Chris and Kate bleeding the Kurdistani TV license payers. We do have a thing, Kurdistan TV. He usually posts, about 4 hours before the show starts, just saying hi. He saw that from Joe, and Joe scared him off. I must admit, Joe, you scare me a bit as well. Geordie Toon fan for life. Hi, mate. How you doing? Evening, Chris and guests. I come in peace. Only here for the crack. well, Tom's crack.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry for the crack. Sorry, the jokes, and support Chris and his channel. Thank you, mate. Look, we'll come on to it earlier on, but yeah, you played us off the park.
No, congrats to Newcastle as well. Yeah.
Yeah, go Sally traffic police uniforms, surprisingly village people. Wasn't that who we saw at Eurovision last year? I don't know. Andrew, to be honest, I don't blame. I don't blame Wars for any of the goals, just bad. Oh, Ward for any of the goals, just bad defending. I'm with you there, Andrew. I'm with you. I think Brad couldn't join us tonight, even if although I hadn't invited him. But if I had, he couldn't have come tonight. He's still getting the fishing hook out of his mouth. So, but let's start. We've got the 3 games to cover. Obviously, Newcastle, Leicester. The Manchester derby, which was the game that Tom covered for myself, and then Southampton, Tottenham, which resulted in, well, something happening. And bless him, Jack. It's the shortest video review I've had so far. I don't think he really had much to say about the game. He let us know his thoughts on Russell Martin. But yeah, not a happy chappy, bless him. Not a happy chappy.
I'll be intrigued to hear, Chris, how long he stayed in that game, and I'll forgive him for anything on that day.
Yes. When they lose, they like to lose well, don't they? You know.
Yeah.
There's the games. I mean, just to quickly run through them. Arsenal, Everton, board draw. We'll be looking at whether that's Arsenal's title hopes gone. Liverpool, surprisingly, had to come from behind twice. Newcastle absolutely played us off the park. Let's not deny it. First team to lose the manager this weekend. Ipswich, what they did very well last season, which was scoring at the last minute. Well done, Forest. Up to 4th with this win. 2-1 over Villa. Brighton Palace, the whatever derby they call it. I'm not sure what they call it, but it is a derby. Palace, I don't know if anybody got that on the coupons. I certainly didn't. But Palace managing to win that, which maybe actually probably means they're not going to be in a relegation battle this year. But we'll see. Obviously, there's a long way to go. The Man United derby, well, look, how did Pep get that other season? I do not know. Chelsea, did they make hard work of it against Brentford? Someone who didn't make hard work of it was Spurs against Southampton. Everybody virtually went for a Spurs win. Brad thought it'd be a tight 2-1. Give up, Brad. Give up. I went 4-1. But look, 5, and then they gave up after half time. They just thought they'd use it as a practice match.
Brad, you should have learned from me last week when I put Chelsea Tottenham 0-0 when it was actually going to be 4-3 every day of the week, mate. Learn from my mistakes.
Exactly. Right, but here's the news. We'll have a look through this and we'll come on to sort of, the sackings, etc. afterwards. But apparently, do you think this is actually he deserves this? He's going to get knighted in the New Year's honours list.
Well, it's not my decision, is it? But if I was,
I want your thoughts on it.
Yeah, exactly. Which I think my words, Chris, are more to indicate what answer was coming next. Which is no. I don't think he deserves it. He did a good job, but he did do a good job. But it depends on your viewpoint on this. I'm still somewhat, being a Leicester fan as well, he might be slightly biased. I think there's times where he underutilised the players he had at his potential in certain tournaments, Jamie Vardy being one of them during his peak. And I think we could have made another final. I think we should have won a European Championship or a World Cup in this time, to be honest. And I think going forward, hopefully with a new manager, we'll see that. Part of the problem is we don't seem to get lucky with managers in England, particularly, but we do have good players. So I think it's very nice to give him a nice pat on the back. He did a decent enough job, but is it a job where we go, that's a success? We didn't actually win anything, so I'd say it's probably a no for me.
I have to say, I would agree with you to a point there. And what annoyed me about Southgate was his promise when he first started the job that if you're not playing for your squad, you're not getting in the team. If I don't care what club you come from, even if you're not one of the big 6, you'll get in the team. I mean, that had more lies in it than the Labour Party manifesto. You know what I mean? Without going down the political front. But
no.
He went back on both of those. Look, I think once you get past Sir Alf Ramsey, who won the damn thing for us, and you could say, well, that was on home soil, but he still won it. One of the finals we got through under Southgate was on home soil. He was probably the most successful manager apart from Sir Alf Ramsey. Bobby Robson, yes, but for the games that he won, and again, the argument you could say is, well, look, I can remember, I think it was during Bobby Robson's reign when we drew, I think 0-0 with Italy, and Paul Ince or Terry Butcher had the blood dripping down the thing, it was harder then because you didn't have these easy groups. But when you get to the actual final stages, he did get us to 2 finals. He got us to a quarter and a semi, I believe. I don't think he deserves a knighthood. That's when you've actually won something. If they were to give him the OBE or the MBE, I would say fair enough.
Yeah, and I also think, like, with all due respect, there's a lot of people in the England fan base who feel we had a pretty easy route to get to finals as well. We always ended up generally in good sides of draws, which is something that hasn't normally happened for England either.
No.
So I think in some ways it depends on your half glass empty or half full.
But again, with that, it's nothing that Southgate could plan.
No.
I'm sorry, you do not go out in your third game of the group section saying, well, if we only draw this game, we'll get the best. You can't do that, No.
I mean, we got better in some places. I mean, we can now take penalties, which is a great credit.
Yes.
Maybe a knighthood for being able to take penalties is a good way forward, as long as we could build on it. But I don't like the idea of rewarding failure. And I'm sorry, ultimately, if you don't win it, it's a failure.
Yes, yeah. No, I agree you shouldn't get a knighthood, but I do think it was success compared to what we've had for 70 odd years before. So I think
he's a nice chap, isn't he?
Yeah.
So you want to be nice to him, but then you've got to be realistic. That's why he's not an elite manager.
No. God, I don't think anybody would want him as elite. I don't think he'd need. I think he'd earn more money and have less stress doing the talk, circuit.
The punditry, yeah.
So an oboe or an ember for me, but not a knighthood.
No.
I don't know if you watched this at all. I actually watched the highlights, and my God, what a game! I mean, we take the piss out of Scottish football, quite rightly, to be fair. But what a final that was! I mean, it was like 1-1 with like 2/3 of it gone, and then it all went absolutely mad at the end. Both sides thinking they'd done enough. And then it got through to penalties, which is a horrible way to lose any final. That poor guy that missed the penalty. But if not, you could be playing for, unless you do the golden goal, which is, the next goal wins it. But then you're sitting back, you don't want to risk it. So there's no easy answer. But what a great game.
Yeah, it was superb, wasn't it? I mean, credit to Rangers as well, because there is still quite a financial divide between the two clubs to a degree. And they also had a great result in Europe against Tottenham as well, didn't they? And there seems to be a bit of confidence building behind Rangers now. And they played incredibly well. I mean, and at least for Scottish football at its worst, there's got to be 2 of them competing and not 1. When there's been 1 competing, it's been pretty dire, like you say. But I think it's great for Scottish football. And I really enjoy the Scottish League, Chris, actually. I do try and catch their highlights. I quite like Dundee United secretly, if I was to look at one of them. It sounds a bit bizarre, but they're quite a nice little football club, and you think, so I think it was a really good game. I think it's disappointing for Rangers in the element of, if you're slight underdogs and then you lose the penalty shootout, it hurts that slight little bit more because you were that little bit closer perhaps to winning it. But I just hope for Scottish football it continues to go in a good direction like this, and more European games and more European money for these clubs, which they're getting now, is only going to build it further. So no, credit to Scotland. It was a great final.
Yes, it was. I have to say, I've got a couple of Scottish teams as well that I keep an eye out for.
Soft spot for, yeah.
Soft spot for, yes. Swamp at the bottom of my garden, but no, I do have a few. Manchester City considering a Paul Pogba transfer. I mean, surely this has got to be an early April Fool's, hasn't it?
Well, it's an interesting one, isn't it? Because ultimately, Man City have a problem in that department. They do. We'll go into it more during the review of the match, but that is literally where the majority of their problems are. So they're going to have to do something. the problem they've got is how good is he now? I mean, and how good was he in that last year before all this happened anyway? I don't think he was particularly brilliant. And in the modern game, Pogba is a very roaming playmaker, and you've got to carry him in the way that Mesut Ozil used to have to be, sort of looked after a bit. And Mahrez a bit of Leicester. These players, they don't normally get a lot of time in the game nowadays, and he struggled to adapt to the Premier League with Man United. So I'll be surprised, Chris, if Man City do it, especially because he's obviously got a good agent and they'll probably want lots of money. But but
is he worth it though? For like you say, A, I do think he's past his sell-by date now,
yeah,
and B, it's a lot of baggage comes with him. And the last thing I think City need now is that baggage.
he doesn't strike me either as a character where football's his be all and end all, and that's not a diss against him. That's obviously because he's obviously got lots of other interests, And you look at him, and I look at him the same way I look at Mario Balotelli. He's quite an entertaining character. He probably could get an agent. He could probably do something, away from football and be very successful. But on the football pitch, like you say, is he the answer now for the right price? Maybe to the end of the season on say £25,000 a week. But would he ever accept that? I don't think he would.
Yeah, his thing is that his contract, I think, or he is signable from March, which means that he wouldn't be in until next season.
Yeah, you can't register him after January.
Yeah. So it wouldn't be like a sticking plaster for this season. It would be a commitment for the season. And would he come on just a 1-year deal? I very much doubt it.
I imagine he'll end up in Saudi Arabia.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, no. Man United launched investigation into team news leaks. Apparently, some of the players have been spreading some news. I mean,
go on, Nacho.
Do we go? Dot. It's Ten Hag's account. Do we do that? Sorry, that was awful. I know, and I apologise for that. But I thought it was quite apt.
It's good.
I don't. I mean, I don't know what sort of contracts these players sign, as in what they can and can't say. We know they can't talk to the press without permission and somebody holding the hand. And surely the players don't need the money.
Well, no, exactly. I mean, it's a problem that would have been in existence 30 years ago, because even if you're a professional footballer, you probably have some good friends who aren't going to rat you out to people. Nowadays, unfortunately, we live in a different world where if you're a high-profile sportsman or media personality, you can't quite trust everyone near you, unfortunately.
No.
If
you're a referee.
Well, exactly. We've seen this play out, and we'll see more of this play out, no doubt, in future. And it'll probably readdress balances, but I guess it is a problem in a way of you want to keep it as secret as possible. But I'm not being funny. Like, I don't think it's as big as a problem as people think it is, because ultimately people kind of know how you're going to line up anyway. They've kind of got an idea of what system you're going to play. So I don't know. I mean, there might be more to this, I wonder, than just this point alone, because if it's the players named that we think they are, that weren't playing ultimately in this game consequently either, there might be a bigger purpose behind it, Chris, I feel. This just might be a small part of a bigger thing.
I think it just, for me, kind of sums up the mess Man United are doing at the moment.
Well, it does, and we've talked about culture, haven't we? And that's the thing, we'll get into it more when we get to the game, but culture, I felt, has been their biggest challenge, and I think they failed to change no matter what managers come in. So this might be a swing against their culture, so in which case, a positive step, perhaps?
Now, the Harry Maguire is in talks for a new contract with Manchester United. That will be a turnaround, won't it, from 2 managers ago, where he was virtually he was castiged and not included in squads and etc. There was, I know I would have him back at the drop of a hat. The problem is we haven't got £190,000 a week, which apparently is what he's on. I still think he can do a job for them. If they've got Johnny Evans there, and he's got another, I believe, year on his contract, Harry Maguire's worth an extension, isn't he?
Well, he's also now playing in a system which is going to suit him better, because they're going to play 3 centre-backs. by the looks
Yes.
of it. So him in the back three, I have a lot more confidence in him in the back two. Because the difference between the Leicester Harry Maguire and the Manchester United Harry Maguire is the last season before we sold him, he lost that yard of pace he had after an injury, which was the difference in making him worth that money, because people looked at him like a Virgil van Dijk, who happened to be 6 foot something and a monster as well, which is a rare combination in football. If you can have the size and the pace, people like Rudiger, for example, they're rare defenders to come by, But I think it's a good signing for them. I think he's solid. I've always liked his attitude. I think Leicester fans generally like him as well still. He's not going to be on £190,000 a week going forward, I don't think. But I don't think he'll expect to be either, Chris. So it could work out well for both parties.
Well, he might have to, survive on 100,000 a week. I mean,
Oh,
how
no,
will he manage that? How will he manage that?
Maybe he can get another Nike sponsorship deal. I don't know, but
Oh, ye little of faith. Right, look, big news over the weekend, and there we go. I think that probably sums up our football's December. 'Tis the season to be sacked. Saturday we saw, well, Sunday I think it was. Sorry, was it Sunday we saw Gary O'Neill go? I did, as you saw, send my condolences to Paddy.
I knew you were going to put that message in the group as well. I had a feeling. It's like, we're going to hear something about Bournemouth will want him.
Well, exactly. Well, I can tell you now that I was talking to Jack from Southampton, because you were sending me the video through, and I said, Cooper to Southampton, and he says, I believe Gary O'Neill likes a South Coast club. So, sorry.
Yeah.
Oh, God, yes, he does. That's right, Gary O'Neill.
Yeah, you got it right. You nailed it.
Yeah. I'm doubting myself now. Surprised at either of these?
No, not particularly. And it's more because of the performance on the day. If I was a chairman in that stadium for either of these games, especially the Southampton one, because the Southampton one, Chris, was like a sequel to the time they played us, and we won 9-0. It was looking like a horror show. It just all completely fell apart. The moment when he pulled off, I think it was Sullivan, pulled him off at half an hour, and just the atmosphere was awful. So I'm not surprised at all. It was the straw that broke a camel's back this weekend for two clubs simultaneously, wasn't it?
It's funny though, isn't it? Because you've got a club here, let's say Southampton. The manager's got them promoted. Literally, I mean, all right. I mean, we can't say it's early in the season because we're virtually halfway through the season now.
Yeah, it's
looked like he could be taking them down, but they took the decision not to stick with him. You've now then got Ipswich, by comparison, who could also possibly go down. We're pretty much sure they're not going to sack their manager. They're going to stick with him even if they go down. It is a hard decision to make for a chairman, isn't it?
Well, it is, because if you look at the statistics backing this up, I think they've narrowed it to they've probably got a 25% shot of staying up with sacking their manager, and it's going to be the same if they kept the manager. I think normally it works out, only 1 in 4 of these decisions works out in your favour ultimately. And this is what we said about when Cooper went from Leicester, wasn't it? When do you make the decision? When's the decision too late? We wonder if Southampton it's too late, because they're so committed now to this, and it's... you've got 2 weeks to a transfer window now. They would have been planning transfers. You've got to bring a manager and get used to that team. I think they've left it too late, Chris.
See, that's why I think Leicester got it spot on this
Agreed.
term.
Agreed. And we set the snowball going.
Yes, we did. We did. I mean, I think these are two clubs here that would have looked at Ruud van Nistelrooy as an option.
Agreed, yeah. And I think for Wolves as well. I mean, Wolves are slightly different to Southampton, because you look at their team on paper and you go, if they were to be playing at their max, they could still be mid-table, really, because they've got a lot of good players there, really.
Yeah.
Larson. So they just need to bring in now someone who's a really more experienced pair of hands. That's not to discount, I think he's done a fine job. But there was no doubt elements towards the end of him hitting his head against a brick wall a bit, because you could just see it in his players. They were trying and it wasn't working. So,
sorry, I didn't know Paddy had sneaked into the chat. Gary O'Neill doing a fine job. Surely not. But yeah,
generally,
I do think we got it right. To be honest with you, I mean, Moyes and Cooper are getting linked with both of these clubs. I can't see Cooper going to either.
No.
And I've got to say, I think Moyes is better than both of these clubs as well.
Yeah, I think if Southampton were clever, they'd go for Moyes, very, very swiftly. I think that'd be a very clever appointment. They're looking apparently at some Championship managers as well and going down a similar Russell Martin route, which I don't dislike because I think the couple of names mentioned are decent managers potentially. They are. But then I do think now you're in that position where you've kind of found out the way you wanted to do things with a higher pressing thing is not going to work. So you've got to sack it off and you've got to do what we're doing with Rude and just sort of solidify.
If you are a Championship manager, though, do you look at this and go, "Well, I'm getting back to the Premier League, but I'll probably be back down again in 6 months"?
It's difficult, isn't it? This is the problem. Unless you get assurances that the project is going to be longer term, maybe. It depends on what the Southampton board view it. But ultimately, mate, when it's 180 million pounds at stake every year in the division you're in, you've got to you can't give up this early. You've got to try and find a way to keep this team in the division, even if you're 9 points adrift like they are.
Yeah. Look, we're not saying it's out of total, Southampton. We think they're down, but look at Leicester. Everybody had us down that season. I think they are looking at that record by Derby of 11 points, and I'm beginning to wonder, as you will see when Jack comes on later. A very interesting bit on the BBC. Does sacking a manager help you avoid relegation? Now, it's very, very interesting, with the two of them getting sacked. And Wolves hope to, they've said, not make the mistake that Leicester did. They hope to have their manager in by the next game, which is obviously Leicester. So obviously they're going to do that and on the new manager bounce. There is a success rate of new managers coming in and keeping a team up at this stage of 40%.
Wow, 40%. That's quite a lot.
Yeah. Sam Allardyce kept two of the teams up. It was 5 teams, basically, Blackburn and Sunderland. Tony Parks, as a caretaker, saved Blackburn again. Harry Redknapp solved, can you believe, Tottenham to safety. Tony Pulis helped Crystal Palace. Managers replaced. Relegation zone managerial changes in the previous 5 seasons. Watford, believe it or not, did it twice and didn't stay up. Everton, that was twice in one season, by the way.
Yeah, and they should never.
Twice,
and they never should have sacked Nigel Pearson because they would have stayed up.
No. Everton did it with Marco Silva and stayed up. Slavan Bilic at West Brom didn't work. Chris Wilder at Sheffield United didn't work. Steve Bruce worked at Newcastle. Farke at Norwich. Ranieri at Watford. Dyche at Burnley. None of them worked. Dare I say Scott Parker worked at Bournemouth. And Bruno Lager at Wolves. Hussenthal at Southampton didn't. Lampard at Everton did. Nathan Jones, Brendan Rodgers, and Paul Heckingbottom, none of them stayed up as well. So it's not a guarantee that any team is going to stay up. But let's go.
I was just there seems to be a trend there between teams that have got a certain identity and then make a dramatic change, them not being able to stay up. Actually, that's the interesting thing. I think teams where you've got a more rounded foundation, you normally can make better. This is Southampton's problem more than Wolves because I'm not sure what you can do with this now.
Yeah, Doug. Hi, Doug. How are you doing, sir? Draw. Was it worth going to Liverpool for that? Ole Gunnar Solskjaer is the favourite for Southampton. Yeah, I think I read that somewhere, and that was it. Victor Pierre is at Wolves bound. We will see. Obviously, both clubs. Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. I don't know much about Victor Pierre, but
no.
Solskjaer, yes, he did a good job at Man United, but look at the squad that he had and the money he could spend. What did he do at Cardiff?
Yeah, he didn't do well, did he? It didn't work out well at all. And in similar circumstances, wasn't it, Chris? Yeah. I'm not sure that's the move you want to make. I think now you need someone who's going to be a firefighter, like an Allardyce or a Moyes. No one really wants these managers nowadays. They're kind of out of favour a little bit, but you kind of need them.
You do. But none of them, I don't think there's many managers will come in, even Moyes on a short-term contract like he did at West Ham. And if you get Allardyce back, well, he's been out of the game too long, surely. Do you know what I mean? But
Yeah,
and
it's more
Doug,
the style of the manager. I mean, more than the
yeah.
specifics. But
Oh no,
yeah,
no, no.
yeah,
I know what you mean. Yeah, but
yeah.
I'm just saying, that wouldn't surprise me. Nothing surprises me in football. And Doug, your jokes are worse than mine, mate. They really, really are. Right, let's get into the meat of this. And playing tonight, obviously, it is Bournemouth against West Ham. All three of us that were in the prediction league, Brad went 4-0, I went 3-1, and Wayne's gone 1-1. If West Ham lose, floppy loppy, is it going to be another sacking? Are West Ham now thinking, shit, if we're not quick, we're going to have nobody left to go to?
I think we'll be 3 for 3. I think you're right, Chris. But ultimately, it's a harder one for West Ham and all of them because their manager has spent a fortune this summer. That he's been heavily backed, and it's not good enough. It really isn't. I mean, and they are looking over their shoulder with worrying eyes because they might get dragged into something, which is they don't want to go through again. And West Ham have done this. They've had a similar problem to Leicester at times where they've taken their eye off that ball for a second, like we did under Rodgers. You end up getting relegated, and it can catch any team out. So I think if they lose tonight, it'll be trouble. I think if they draw tonight, he probably still should go because they just need to start winning. Palace are now winning, and Ipswich are winning. And the pressure mounts, doesn't it, Chris? And that's the glory of the Premier League for you.
Totally. I mean, West Ham here, they won, they beat Wolves, didn't they? So last Monday, in fact. They've won 5, drawn 3, lost 7 so far, scored 20, but they've conceded 28. They're on 18 points, so they're still pretty safe. The 2 wins above Ipswich, but a couple of losses and you're back in there, aren't you?
We've got a few weeks coming up where there's going to be a few midweek games as well, and all of a sudden in a week, that team can get 6 points, Chris, and it can all change.
Yes, yeah, no, totally. Yeah. I do fear for Loppy Floppy if it I'm only saying that because I can't say his name, but yeah,
it was a daft appointment though, wasn't it? Really, I mean, it's almost like they said to him, "Build us a Real Madrid. Here's 120 million quid because we know you've managed Real Madrid." And it's just so flat and just so rubbish and so arrogant.
That's what the West Ham fans are saying. He got that job on the back of a very short stint, as it was, at Real Madrid. And he's not exactly, I mean, he walked out on his national team at the start of a competition. Well, he was dropped by Spain, in fairness, but he said, I'm going after this. I mean, he's not the best judge, is he, on things? But look,
unfortunately, there are some managers who are a bit mercenary-like, and Antonio Conte is another one. Remember, he kept up a massive stink about the money he was getting from Chelsea, but he got paid for years after he got sacked because he was refusing to negotiate. But my point is that, I think it was a daft appointment on that principle alone.
Yes, yeah. Oh, here we go. We've got to talk about it. Toon returned to winning ways with thumping victory over Ruud van Nistelrooy's Foxes. Look, Geordie's in, but let me say that we've still, in fairness, we've still got Steve Cooper's team.
Yeah.
I know it's not all Cooper's players. Some of them were there before, but Ruud's come in, polish a turd, it's still a turd. A lot of those players. That was a game that was up there with Brentford from the the way we played. There was just where was the fight, and the play that we showed against West Ham and Brighton.
Yeah, that's a good point, isn't it? It's funny because when I was doing my notes for tonight, there was a lot of similarities to where Leicester are right now and Manchester United. In some ways, to that the manager's going in and he's giving players opportunities to see what they're going to do, and he's making quick decisions. I will not be surprised if a couple of these players for Leicester that played in this game never play for us again. And I mean that with all the love in the world. But ultimately, your point is right. They were gifted an opportunity. The reason we lost was because we couldn't produce the same midfield we produced the week before because of injuries and suspensions. That would have given us more of a chance of a stable build because we've improved with that. But there was still an opportunity there for people like Hamza and Skip. And I know Skip's done an interview this week, so I'm sure you might bring up Chris. But then there's an opportunity there for you at least to work. And if you don't show it, I think at that point, then you're making the manager's decision very easy when it comes to January.
Yeah, I think Skip didn't look brilliant, but then who did in that team. Nobody
No.
came out of that with any. I mean, I think my man of the match got 5. I mean, that says it all, really.
I mean, Hamza surprised me because Hamza's had a good few games at St James's Park before for Leicester, and I was expecting him to come and have a real go today and just be a bit more braver. And it was so negative and so lackluster and lacking energy. It was awful.
Well, I was going to mention Chowdhury next because he did have an awful game. His passing was, you can see what he was trying to do, but it was just, he was trying to play a through ball and it always went to a Newcastle player. This is the first Premier League action that he has played in, I think it's a couple of years. So, I know we've had the Championship in there as well. Yeah. Are we talking like when Ricardo came in for those first 2 games that he was recalled? He didn't actually have brilliant games. And I said, and the watch along, ring rust.
Yeah, I think you're right. Ring rust is a very potential opportunity to what's happening here, and hopefully he gets better. But the problem for me, Chris, isn't really rust; it's more work rate, and I don't think he worked hard enough. I'm one of these people. I'm quite simple. I don't mind if you get it wrong as long as you're working. We saw people like Vestergaard have pretty awful games, but he was working. So I don't know where you draw the line with that, and that's my problem with Hamza on the day anyway. But it's not to pick on Hamza. He is just a point in the situation of, 1 point. Look, all the Newcastle fans. And just to say for Newcastle, they probably deserved a result like this. And walking into us at the time they did was probably very helpful for them because they needed a result to boost them up after a few difficult weeks, So credit to them. They did play very well.
And look, Michael says there, and we are going to buy in January. Whether any of the ones like Maguire, KDH, Barnes are going to come back on loan, it's very, very doubtful. But the thing is, when Cooper was dealt a hard card because he came in and was said, right, it's pre-season, get on with it sort of thing. But at least he did have that pre-season to have a look and see how awful we were. And we were awful pre-season.
Yeah.
Rude's come in and he's having to make these decisions on the job. Yeah, he can't go off and have a friendly and go like, okay, I'm going to go and play, Coventry this week in a friendly behind those laws and see what he can't. He hasn't got the time to do that. There's too many games anyway. So this is the only way, and this is why I said bringing him in. He's had the end of November and December, so he's probably had 6-7 games to look at these players and go, you're shit, you get out of my club and get on with it. And he's had the time to do that. And so he's probably now gone and said, they say, don't they? And do you think this is true? You learn more when you lose a game?
I think you do, because I think when you're facing adversity, you see people's true character, don't you? And this is why Danny Ward's coming for so much heat, because ultimately, he wasn't ultimately responsible for this loss, but he's almost like the symbol of the principle for this football club. He's someone who's cost us an incredible amount of money. He's been paid an incredible amount of money. And as soon as he came on the pitch as well, Chris, there was a vibration change at the back. It was like when Mads was there, it was like he's the last line of defence. All of a sudden, there wasn't a last line of defence. I know people are getting a bit funny about this, but I think there is a part to mention in this, which is important for Leicester and us to get to grips with. And maybe Hamza gets involved in this as well. And we go, well, we need to let go of these players somehow and just move forward because it's just.
I think with Ward, we can't. We've tried, and he's look. I mean, look. Let's talk Ward then. I was going to do that in a while, but seeing as you brought him up, look. He is not the best goalkeeper in the Premier League. He's not even the best goalkeeper in the Leicester squad.
You'd struggle to be the best goalkeeper in the Championship. I'm sorry.
Probably, but who else have we got? We've got 4 keepers there.
Sorry? Iverson. Oh, is he injured? Is he? Oh, sorry, I didn't know that. I didn't know he was injured. I thought he wasn't on the bench. Okay, that's my bad.
He's coming back. He's playing on, he's training on grass, but he is injured. Stolarczyk, who was number 2 all last season and would probably be number 2, is injured.
Yes.
Right? So don't get me wrong. What I am saying is that I would sooner have either of those two than Ward. My argument with Ward was that he was always a good backup for league games and for League Cup games and FA Cup early round games, but he struggled because he didn't have any Premier League experience before we brought him in. Because Schmeichel never got bloody injured. Thank God he didn't, but he never got injured. And this is why I say years, and I'm an old fucker, I've got to say, years ago they used to have a reserve league.
Yeah.
So that any players that were over the 21 age groups, you can only put a couple into the under 21s, and
right,
you got a huge gap until the first team. So you had a reserve league so that players like McAteer or these players that are coming back could play in there and get match fitness and get up to scratch, so that when they came on, they weren't this sort of ring rusty, if you like. Now, first of all, like I say, would we have lost that game if Hermansen had been in goal? Yes.
Yeah.
Did it suddenly go better after 50 minutes and we suddenly turned into primetime Barcelona and held Newcastle back? No. They took the foot off the gas because they were 4-0 up. A lot of games coming up over Christmas. It was over at 2-0, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
A goalkeeper is only as good as the defence in front of him.
This is true, and they had a bad game.
They did. You cannot look and say, all right, yes, we know Hermansen is a better goalkeeper than Ward. But all these people that were saying we lost because of Ward, no, we didn't.
No.
And look, you can say he was offered, he sat there on huge money. I'd fucking sit there on that money if they paid it to me and not play week in, week out.
It's more of a damning indictment to Brendan Rodgers for signing him in the first place.
Exactly. That's the thing. He was there.
£12.5 million.
Who gave him the contract extension? Brendan Rodgers.
Yeah.
That is where the problem lies. He should have gone then, but Brendan Rodgers, no. And you could argue with Vestergaard getting that extra one last season extension and whether he'd be any good in here. But that back four, which should have been it was a decent back four against Brighton and West Ham, Justin, Cody, Vestergaard, Christensen. None of them, I don't think I gave any of them more than a 4 for that game.
No, they all.
In fairness, I did give Ward a 2, so I'm not defending his performance.
No. I just think it's interesting the reaction people have had to Danny Ward, and obviously a lot of people have immediately sort of linked it, like you say, Chris. And actually, right, there isn't particularly a link between the result and him. However, it's more, I think, a reminder of what the problem is that we are facing as Leicester City Football Club right now. And it was put right into our focus on Saturday and told we cannot be doing this anymore. We need to go into January and replace or make sure we're going to be playing other players.
There's a lot to be said for just paying these players contracts out, buying them out, if you like, so that they're off the books and you've got that space, even if it means bringing another goalkeeper in short term. I mean, who was the player we had? We've had a few recently, but we had one, I think he was from Hull, and I can't remember his name. Jakuba.
Yeah.
He would probably do better than Ward, but
I was wondering if Conrad Logan was still somewhere hidden in a cupboard. We could have just whipped him out and just sort of chucked big Conrad back in.
Playing, actually.
Yeah, because he was playing in Leicestershire, wasn't he? He was over 40.
Yeah.
Conrad, get him back.
But the thing is, like I say, the problem as well is, right, you've got a defence that's shit, and it was. You change your goalkeepers through no choice of your own.
Yeah.
And that's going to make the whole thing even shitter.
Absolutely.
And everybody said, well, the defence don't have any faith in Ward. Does Ward have any faith in the bloody defence in front of him? Because I wouldn't.
No,
that defence has got more holes in it than the colander.
And it's interesting, Chris, because there's something I noted from the game on Saturday. I looked at people that were still pointing fingers at one another and getting frustrated. And I've ultimately come to the decision, Vestergaard and Cody, they're a better pairing in some ways, but they're not going to be the long-term answer. So we need to maybe change it again, because they just seem to be pointing fingers at each other when both of them are making mistakes. And they're both getting frustrated with each other. They're getting frustrated with the goalkeeper. The goalkeeper's probably getting frustrated as well because he's trying his best. And there comes a point where you've got to just let it go and go, it's not going to work. We need to at least be on the same page here, because if we're not going to be able to write the same book.
Ward did not come out and go, I'm going to be shit and let 3 goals in.
No, but he did look a rabbit in the headlights, didn't he? Dearie me. Bless him. I feel bad for him.
He did, but like everybody, I mean, well, okay, let me throw this at you then, because I know you're blaming Ward a little bit for it, but
I just think
Hermansen's
he's a bad symbol.
but Hermansen's a shit goalkeeper, isn't he?
Hermansen's one of the better goalkeepers in the
No,
league.
no, he's shit. No, I'm sorry. We lost. We let in 4 goals against Arsenal. He must be shit.
This is a good point, Chris. No, I get what you're saying. No. Like I say, no, you're right. You're right. It's a very good point. No, I can give you that, Chris. I mean, like I say, my talking about Danny Ward, because a lot of the audience are going to be talking about Danny Ward as well. And like I say, I think it's more like the principle of what he stands for versus him actually being there. You're correct. But ultimately, there's going to be scapegoats as well, isn't there? You don't help yourself sometimes. I just wish he helped himself. Really, just,
Yeah. I mean, look, everybody said, well, the ball went through his legs for the last goal. Well, I'm sure Hermansen at some point has let a goal in through his legs. Goalkeepers do. And look, I know he's not anywhere near Hermansen's standards.
Isn't it interesting how the energy in the fan base is similar to probably what's going on in the team right now? The little bit of bittiness is kind of is probably similar to them, and that's what we need.
We like a scapegoat at Leicester City, don't we?
Yes.
Chilwell,
Samari,
Samari,
Daka's
Barnes at time, Barnes for a couple of seasons.
Maddison got it a bit as well. Maddison got it.
We like to pick on the players, and but just remind me one other thing, by the way. Sorry, when they're picking, is it a 1 versus 1 sport? This.
No, I believe it's meant to be 11 versus 11, Chris.
Right. So basically, Ward wasn't out there on his own then.
No, he wasn't. No, I tell you what's made it difficult for us. We used to have 12 men with N'Golo Kante. It's completely fried our brains from like a decade ago.
Yes. But look, we did not taking nothing away from Newcastle. I mean, even John Sinclair from John Sinclair TV, who did the preview with me, lovely guy, great friend of the channel. He only went 1-0 to Newcastle. Because he was saying it depends what Newcastle turned up. Unfortunately, the better Newcastle turned up, and we just didn't turn up at all. But I'll tell you something. I think Ruud van Nistelrooy, he was looking angry on the side of the pitch, and he is going. I would imagine there's a lot of red hot ears in that Leicester squad after he's given them a roasting. Because Vardy up front. And when I rated Vardy, which I think I gave him a 3 or 4, I can't remember, but it was a 3 or 4 star, and that star was, and I do that if it's not their fault that they've got a low mark.
Yeah,
he got no service whatsoever.
Completely unable to bring him into the game, were they? They just couldn't bring him into the game at all.
No, and so what do? You swap Vardy with Daka. And expect it suddenly to be different.
Well, exactly. I mean, it's so early, isn't it? I think we can give Ruud an easy pass on this because it's probably now not the time to be changing systems during a game and then maybe getting into more of a mess. But there will come a time that will need to happen. You're correct. There will come a time they'll need to be able to switch it up and maybe add 2 strikers up top or something. But like you say, I think the thing we've got to take away from this as Leicester fans is who is the ones actually working? Who are the ones we're going to proceed with going forward? And who in January we're going to suggest, sorry, maybe it's time you look elsewhere. We've got to be a bit brutal, unfortunately, because we can't mess around when it's Premier League survival, Chris.
And we are playing a team that, okay, they were mid-table, but look at the squad they've got. They should be looking at knocking on European doors. We haven't just played West Ham or Everton, so we've played a decent team.
I think if we performed at a higher level and we'd lost 2-1, I don't think we'd all be so worried. But I think we're all a bit annoyed and a bit antsy because we're annoyed at individual performances because it was a 4-0 and that's not good enough either. But anyway,
come on, Ward, my man of the match.
Danny, prove every single Leicester fan wrong. That's what we want you to do. Go out there, put in a worldie performance and just shove it down our throats. Literally do it. Please.
Exactly. Right. Talking about teams that should be doing better. Manchester City. And like I said earlier, I actually called this spot on. Nobody's more surprised than I am. At 1-0, and I'd only saw the start of the game when City went 1-0 up, and I had to go off and do different things. Talk me through this game.
Yeah, it's a bizarre game, this one, because Man City started very well, really, I felt. And also, the thing that's interesting, Chris, is at the top end of the pitch in their transition play and their striking and their attacking, they even though they're not particularly connecting and scoring, they still seem very good. They've not lost anything. They're still making some really good plays forward, and they were a problem for Manchester United in the first half with that, and they deserved to take the lead. They did. But yeah, it's just bizarre, really. It just seems to be one or two linchpin positions for Man City. They're very vulnerable in all of a sudden. And there's also this energy around Pep, just the way he's coming across in post matches, even before this game. He seems defeated. He seems defeated and he's given that energy out, which I think now is spreading to his players because they were winning this game with what? For 2 minutes to go, and then all of a sudden they've completely messed it up, and Man United have nicked it just from absolutely nowhere. I mean, Manchester United weren't bad. The good thing is they didn't play certain players who you could question about their attitude, perhaps, like with this thing that was going on with Garnacho and Rashford and all the rest of it. Things we questioned just briefly about maybe other people in the Leicester team. And instead, he put out players like Diallo, who played really well and put in top quality performance. So it was the right result, I think, for the energy. But goodness me, what is going on with Man City, Chris? Honestly, it is bizarre how much they're falling.
I've seen a thing today with Pep Guardiola coming. I don't know if this is something I can fix. I mean, this isn't Pep Guardiola, is it?
No, that's my point. The narrative he is, and it's funny because I watched the Christopher Nolan Batman films the other day, and in those there's a famous quote in it when he's the Joker of Batman, which is, "You either die a hero or you live long enough to become the villain," and it's almost like Klopp when he left Liverpool, because I felt that last season there were signs that it wasn't entirely as rosy as it had been, and it was almost like their relationship was coming to a natural end, and Klopp felt it as well and made the right decision. I wonder if Pep's made a mistake, because I wonder if he probably needs a break. When you're a Premier League manager, Chris, it's probably 100 hours a week non-stop. Overtime is normal time for you. There is no time for a break, even an off-season, really. You've got to be working, bringing in players and doing everything else. So I just wonder if he needs a break, and he's not giving himself an opportunity to get one now. So it could get worse from here. Just the energy is not good, is it? Like you say.
No. And also, how long he's been at Manchester City? I think longer than he's been anywhere else.
Yeah.
I'm all right. The money's good, but let's be honest with you, he's not going to struggle to put food on the table if he leaves, is he?
No.
Does he need that extra? And on Manchester City, I honestly think that football goes round in circles.
Yeah.
For years and years under Paisley and the Liverpool boot room, Liverpool were top. Then came Ferguson and Man United. Then we had Chelsea. Now we've had Manchester City. And it's almost like Manchester City's time coming to an end.
Yeah, we said that. We said that a couple of weeks ago, didn't we? We said we almost felt in the air like there was an energy of this is the end of this era and there's going to be something else, and it might be the slot era. We didn't know. What's interesting, Chris, is what does this make you believe about karma? Because by all accounts, they've now been found there might be 150 charges, not 115, so another 35 have been added. And by all accounts, it's all a bit shady, isn't it? And I think honestly, the problem is so bad they're going to have to maybe sweep it slightly under the rug. It's going to be awful for the Premier League as well. But is there karma involved in this? Are they just getting what they probably deserve from being in a vibration of, frankly, cheating for many years?
You could argue.
This is what I'm wondering. Is it like a philosophical, spiritual karma?
I suppose if karma would see them drop into the bottom three and relegated.
Well, how bad could it get, Chris? I mean, I'm not being funny.
Yeah, but I mean, even before any decisions taken, I'm very much they've finally got round to looking at it. The FA. I'm kind of on a sliding carpet here because of what we got away with. And not saying we got away with, we didn't actually get away with anything because we didn't. I think Nick DeMarco did a thing in the paper recently saying that there are no loopholes, just very badly written rules and laws.
Absolutely.
So I don't know what Manchester City are going to get away, but yes, I mean, when you look at the table now, and we'll talk about them later, but Forest are sat above Manchester City. It's like, what's going on? And, you think of it, and like you say, I don't think anybody's shedding any tears. I'm sorry if there's any Manchester City fans in. I doubt there is, but nobody was shedding any tears. It looked, like I say, I didn't see most of the game, but it looked here 3 shots on target for both teams, only 10 shots each. Pretty much, did they cancel each other out? I mean, everything touches 663 to 643, passes 498 to 468. It seems to be like two gladiators having a go at each other.
Well, but I think both teams are quite nervous because the time the game has come along for both of them isn't ideal, is it? So there was a bit of nerves in there, and I'll say something. Carl Walker needs to have a word of himself because he was, I mean,
embarrassing, wasn't it?
Embarrassing. I mean, I'm sorry. It's unbecoming of him as a man, and I'll call out his manhood for it because that is shocking. If you're a man, you do not do that. As simple as that. You do not pretend and fake and then dive on the floor. Utterly awful human being. Sorry. And he needs to look at himself in the mirror. That's why I'll say it as harsh as I say it, Chris. You should not do it. I don't care if you're playing football or not.
But do you not think? See, for me, when something is as obvious as that, and he got a yellow card, didn't he? I think in the game.
Yeah.
Yeah. Then so did the other guy. But to me, that's the sort of thing where VAR make a note of these things when they're watching the game,
Absolutely.
and then it's retrospectively gone back and going ungentlemanly conduct, red card.
You should fine him. He should be fined in his pocket immense straight away because the problem.
If he gets a straight, he said right, scrap the yellow, it's a straight red. He then misses the next 3 games, is it, for a straight red? Or whatever. And then Pep Guardiola, we're going, you stupid bloody wanker. What the hell do you think you're doing that? Well, you're out now for 3 games. You know what I mean? So your managers start then having, they come down on you.
The problem is as well, kids watch this, and I'm sorry, like if kids are going to see you doing that and then throwing yourself on the floor like a little girl, I mean, I'd recommend acting classes rather than football as a career.
Well, exactly. And maybe that's why his girlfriend is no longer with him.
Well, I mean, I hate to question a man on that level, but Chris, I'm sorry, like it's got to be called out in the world because there's too many people doing things like that, and it's bullshit.
Totally, 100%.
I will not mince my words. Anyway,
no, you're not doing. You don't. You get off that fence, mate, and say what you think. But no, you're quite. I would not disagree with any of you on that point. It is disgusting.
I'd say it to him if he was in the room. I'd say, mate, I wish you all the best, but you've got to sort that out. It's not good enough.
Yeah. I just think that this is where the FA are basically acting like a bunch of OAP women. Oh, let's go and do our knitting instead. No, watch these games and deal with that sort of thing and get it out of the game.
Absolutely.
But it's one of the big 6, isn't it? So we know it won't happen.
I was going to say, Chris, there is some unconscious bias. I noticed on it during the weekend because there was decisions in this game where Manchester United in the box for Man City corners were basically grappling. Højlund was grappling with Haaland. And remember when Leicester City won the Premier League, they said grappling in the box is not going to be allowed going forward. Yes. I bet you if Crystal Palace had done that to Man United, it would have been a free kick.
Oh, I couldn't possibly.
Honestly, I was looking at it going mad and going, we won a Premier League doing this. And they said it's illegal.
I know. Again, I know what you mean. I do.
Yeah, there is. It's subconscious, though, Chris. I do think it's subconscious, but I do think it is there a bias. It's true. Yeah. Anyway,
if we had a bad day at the office, these had a bad day at the orifice. Southampton 0, Tottenham Hotspur 5. We are going to hear from Jack, who is the yes, he is. He's the Southampton fan in a second. I just want to look at this game. I mean, I'm sorry. It was 25 minutes gone and they were 4-0 down. The game is over. I mean, okay, the second half was 0-0. I thought, maybe our 9-0 away record could be in jeopardy here. Yeah, but then I think for Spurs, you're looking at, again, you're thinking you've got Saturday, then you 3 games very quickly coming up, with Christmas and what have you. You take your eye, you just can't win at 5-0. And a team like Southampton, maybe if it had been Chelsea or somebody, they wouldn't have been 5-0 up, would they? But you know what I'm saying?
No,
it was so easy. But let's have a look and see if I can bring Jack in and see. It's a very quick one. Just see what he's got to say.
Jack here from Matchday Blogs, Southampton channel. I mean, do I have to say much? It's terrible. Life's hard. We're on for the Derby record. It's going to happen unless something mega happens. And, you know, that mega thing might be a new manager. So, days to come, guys. I might have slightly more optimism when we get Rafa Benitez and Jose signs the contract. He says he fancies coming to a lower league, you know, a low-level, struggling Premier League side. Doesn't want to worry about those UEFA conditions, and he wouldn't have to worry about that with Southampton one iota. So that's what we got to hope for. But I'll be honest, guys. Yeah, the names that we've been thrown out: Danny Rowe, Carlos Corberand, Graham Potter. I don't know what sort of position we're going to be in. I would be dying for Leicester season right now. I'd give for Wolves season just anything. But you know, that's what football's all about, isn't it? Back there Wednesday, Fulham away Sunday. It's all kicking off. I would like to say, you know, double figures by Christmas. Is that asking for too much, Santa? Double figures? I don't think so. Anyway, Paul Onuachu, Tool Paul. He's going to save our season, so nothing to worry about. But everything to worry about. Thanks for making me talk about this, Chris. Honest God, that Spurs game is worse than our 9-0 against you guys, so that's the vibe right now. Thanks for making me talk about it.
Oh, bless him. He's so
brilliant.
Yeah, so self-deprecating.
How did you find someone with a bigger beard than me? Remarkable.
In fact, he was here first. I do go back quite a way with Jack. Jack is absolutely... He's a match day vlogs. Guys, his links in the description below. Please do go. They do mainly Southampton stuff, but they're good lads. And
I'm going to watch him. He's got a good vibe. He's got a really good vibe.
Yeah, he's got my sense of humour. Let me put it that way. He would die for Leicester season at the moment.
Oh, mate. I mean, he had my heart breaking for him there a little bit because you could tell just how difficult it is for Southampton right now. And like he said, in some ways it is kind of worse than the 9-0 because it comes at a time where you can't be having, you know, flashbacks to that, you know. I mean, goodness me, they might have had PTSD in the stands after about 25 minutes, a lot of them, bless them. It's just... And it's against Tottenham as well. You know, you just think they have days where they're susceptible. Ipswich beat them. They're one of your rivals. Yeah, it couldn't get any worse for Southampton, could it? I mean, but they're a lovely football club, and I hope they do sort something out as long as we stay up as well.
Well, yeah, I mean, I like Southampton. They're down the road. They're my nearest team apart from Bournemouth. So when we got relegated, I was glad they went down as well. It was still a game I could get to. But look, yes, we touched on it earlier. They're in all sorts of trouble.
Yeah,
and
I do wonder if it's too late.
I mean, there is half. I mean, we've played 16 games, so it's as good as halfway through the season, which is scary to think that we're already halfway through the season. But come January, we will be. I'm not sure of what their January fixtures are like. Just see if I can click on this, it might tell me.
I think when you're bottom of the league, they're all pretty difficult.
Well, that is very true. I mean, just looking here.
I just wonder, Chris, they should have done it 2 weeks earlier.
Yeah, they've got Fulham. Then they've got West Ham.
Big game.
Fulham away, West Ham home, Crystal Palace away.
Oh.
And then 4th of January, Brentford. And then Man United, Nottingham Forest, Newcastle, Ipswich, Bournemouth. So they've got a difficult post-Christmas. You would look at that, though, in fairness, and go, Palace, Fulham's probably going to be difficult for them. West Ham, that could be a very interesting game.
Well, they're the games they've got to do something if they are going to do something, aren't you know? Yes. They're the games they've got to get something.
Yes. You know? But I just, like you say, whether it's too late. But look, they started Russell Martin, and did Russell Martin do the right thing? He stuck to his guns, didn't he?
I think he's done what Russell Martin wants to do for Russell Martin. I'd probably implore him to consider before he goes into his next job, because he's still a young manager, isn't he? You know, you can add more, you know, bows to your hat. You know, you can add more tassels to it and make it look jazzier. He could learn a second system, which isn't going to catch his team in their trousers down after 15 minutes like it did here. Yeah. because then he started making changes after half an hour, and he was falling out with the player that he was bringing off because I think the player was saying to him, "We're already 3-0 down here, mate. Why are you taking off a forward? It's too late. We've got to just, So I think Russell Martin stuck to his guns, and fair play to him, he went down with the ship, and they've removed him from it. Now they made him walk the plank. There's a lot of pirate references in there. I don't know.
There are, I was thinking how many you can get in actually.
It must be the coastal kind of thing, I think I was free in that. That was quite impressive, really.
Yes.
But yeah, my point is that no. I mean, I guess in some ways, fair play to him for sticking to it, but it hasn't worked out. They probably should have replaced him 2 or 3 weeks ago. Now they've got a real challenge on, Chris.
They have. Interesting thing, just before we move on and we run quickly through the other games. In our game, it doesn't show me. I don't think we had that many shots on target.
It was like 3 or something. It was very little. 1.
Let's just have a look.
I think it was 3 shots in total.
We had 1 shot on target.
Yeah.
Now, this is Leicester. Southampton had 3 shots on target.
Yeah.
What does that say about us?
Well, it's interesting because I think it's a difficult one to correlate because both teams play very different systems. I would argue Southampton, if they're not creating at least 6 chances a game with the system they're playing, they're not really doing good enough anyway, Chris, because it's a very attacking system they're playing, and that's why they keep getting caught out. I mean, we're not going to create as many chances being slightly more defensive-minded in our approach anyway. So it doesn't surprise me. And once again, it's like XG, isn't it? Some of these stats, they make nice little things, but they don't really correlate well balancing against each other or bouncing off each other. So, but interesting about Tottenham, Tottenham came out of this feeling quite smug, it seemed. I saw Maddison's post-match conference, and it's like apparently they're going to have a day off today, and it's all a big celebration. I'm thinking, oh my word. I mean, their narrative is so bizarre as a football club. It's like they win this, they're going to release a DVD and celebrate it to death as if it's the greatest result of all time. And next week they'll go lose to Stoke in the FA Cup or something.
This is the thing. I was about to ask
you
that. I was about to make that very exact point. We're muting into one person here, Tom.
Yeah.
We're working together too much. We're getting each other's thoughts. But, they could, like you say, win this 5-0, go to Wolves and lose it 4-1 or something. There's just no consistency there, is there?
No, and they're a broken record, and they follow the same cycle every time. I'm at the point where I'm just looking at Maddison speaking there, and he speaks well. He's very good. He'll be a great pundit when he finishes his football career. But the narrative's wrong. The narrative is wrong. The narrative isn't well done, us pat on the back, let's have a day off. The narrative is, well, that's great, but we need to make sure we're getting this every week. Let your fans know that you see the problem. That's why they get called Spursy, Chris, because my word, I can seriously see them dropping points next week. Irrelevant winning 5-0.
Yes, exactly. Right, moving very quickly then, just the games. I got 3 points in the prediction league on this. It was the game that saw Gary O'Neill sacked from Wolves. Sorry, Paddy, if you're watching. You've got to play for 90 minutes. Ipswich were very, very good at this last season, scoring last-minute goals to draw or win. They were suffering with it a lot last season. It's made the table very interesting. They're only now 2 points behind us, Ipswich. But fair play to them. Their second win of the season.
Yeah, they show battling resilience, Chris, don't they? And they show you what we've been talking about when it comes to Russell Martin and his players maybe not being on side and believing in him. Same with us at Leicester with Cooper. The players believe in McKenna. And that's why we always speak so positively. I don't think there's going to be a week we'll come on. We'll really hammer them because, you can't just how they approach things. They approach things so purely, so honestly. And Wolves got themselves in a mess yet again, and that has been the downfall of their season, hasn't it? They've made it so hard for themselves at the back, and they're creating all this pressure on themselves, and consequently the manager's lost his job. So, no credit to Ipswich, because this is a game before they'd have lost or they'd have drawn, and they held on and they actually won it at the end. So credit to them, because they've stuck to their guns, and it's quite frightening, because as you know, 2 points behind us, they're catching up. That confidence carries people a long way sometimes.
It does. Liverpool having to come back twice from being a goal down against Fulham. Fulham, who we know battered us when we played them. And Liverpool had a player sent off, I believe, as well. Well, I do know, it says it there. but fair play to Fulham. I think Liverpool. Fulham will say this as a point gained, and Liverpool as 2 lost.
Agreed. Yeah, you've literally nailed it there, Chris. I mean, Liverpool towards the end probably still could have won the game despite having 10 men, which is a credit to them. I wondered to myself, and I'll have to ask the question out. If anyone knows, put it in the chat, either during the show or after we finish. But I wonder if they practice with 10 men at any points in training, a lot of these teams, just to see what you would do. Because I think I would test it out, obviously. I mean, maybe I'm being naive, and I was like, of course, you practice with 10 men just in case, But Liverpool played very well with 10 men. Fulham really were hanging on at the end there. Fulham did what Fulham do well, and that is they'll get at you with pace, and it's mostly through the left back Robinson, the American chap, superb. And but really, Liverpool should have won it. But both sides will come away happy from this, Chris, because both of them were very relevant and played well.
The whatever this is, derby, I'm not sure what you call it. Brighton 1, Palace 3. Brad actually called this as a 2-1. Wayne went 3-1, but the other way. I went for a draw. I mean, I think, if I'm honest with you, I probably expected Brighton to win, but because it's a derby and because of the feeling, I thought, well, yeah, it might be one of those derby games 2-2. But was this a surprise?
Well, there were signs it was going to happen because Palace were starting to improve performances the last 2 weeks, as we've said week on week. We kind of heaped a bit of pressure on them a couple of weeks ago. I was very understanding they've had injury problems with Eze being out and all the rest of it. But what impressed me is how they've got through that, navigated it, and they've come back and they seem all behind their manager and they seem very much all in the same direction. I saw a very good team spirit from Palace in this game, very good team spirit. And it's funny because Brighton, there is almost like a little small noise coming out, like they got a bit with De Zerbi towards the end, which is there's one or two little naysayers already creeping in only after a few dodgy weeks. So it's interesting, Chris, as to where it is. I think Brighton obviously will still push on because they create plenty of chances. But Palace are doing a lot better than what we all anticipated, and long may it continue for them, I guess. Not good for us, though, because they're dragging away from us, and we need them to stay with us.
They are up to 15, 16 points, 2 more than us. But then, in fairness, probably I had them in mid-table, for my season prediction. So they're probably just getting back, like you say, to where we expected them to be.
And of course they do have these injuries, but no one talked about it. They had a massive amount of injuries for weeks, so they were battling through with youngsters in their team. So no credit to them.
Yeah. Villa just can't win after they've played in Europe, can they?
No.
And Forest, well, congratulations to Forest, up to 4th.
Yeah, Forest defensively very much like Man United in this one. They were a bit physical again, and they probably should have given Villa a penalty earlier on because Anderson was pulling at Rodgers as he was coming into the box. And I thought to myself, man, we wouldn't get away with
I'm
that.
glad you did that. Otherwise, you're doing that. I'm glad you did that. Otherwise, I want to know what pulling meant.
Yeah. I'm an expert in this sort of thing. When you're in a nightclub and there's music playing, you've got to have the right signals. So I want to make sure I'm not giving off anything too dodgy. But yes, anyway, before I get too lost, there was that great save for Martinez, wasn't there, as well, that world-class save. But unfortunately, he then conceded a goal where he carried it into his own net, so I think it kind of balances out a little bit. But no, credit to Forest. They're a physical, bouncery sort of type of team, and they're making it work for them. It was a good goal from Duran as well. Villa were in it. I just think Forest come across now, Chris, as a team that they're like on a big cup run at the moment, and they're all really enjoying it. Every home game they have, you kind of feel they're going to do something, irrelevant if they're losing into the last 2 minutes. And that's a great place to be because that'll gain you extra out of points. So credit to them for that. Credit to them.
Indeed. And Chris Wood is in talks for a new contract as well. So
as long as he keeps doing what he's doing, then he deserves it. Honestly, superb.
Yeah. I had this as a 3-1 win to Chelsea. And it was 2. Brad went 5. Wayne went 4. Chelsea only 2 points behind Liverpool, but they have played a game more. Fair play to Enzo and Chelsea this season.
Yeah, they're doing superb, aren't they? It's funny because I actually think I might have predicted a Brentford win because Brentford generally have done very well at Stamford Bridge the last few years, haven't they? They've I think they won last year. They're 4-3 or something, or 3-2. But good result for Chelsea because ultimately, Brentford are the real deal nowadays, and Bremo scores a good goal again in this game. But Yeah, they were superb again. The quality they're showing, the range of what they could do, Chelsea as well, Chris, is quite scary because they will play out from the back and they will play over the top. So they're a threat on many fronts and they're just getting better. So, yeah, I mean, credit to Enzo, credit to what they're doing. And I think for them, the more they could keep that narrative up of we're not in the title race, the better for them because
Yeah.
they are right in the title race, as everyone really knows.
Very much Claudio Ranieri speak.
Very much Claudio Ranieri speak.
Yes, like that. No, we're just 40 points. We just want to
Oh,
stay.
yes.
up.
Deflecting. Sorry, Chris. Yeah.
Yeah.
No. Yeah. I was like, I can't remember when Claudia said that, but no, you're right. Claudia did do that. Yeah.
Sorry.
Mate,
I
I had a busy day.
The most boring game, and I know I have got the wrong logo up there. It's been a long day. Should of course be the Everton logo. Arsenal 0, Everton 0. Arsenal not necessarily out of it, but they will ruin the fact that they should be beating a team like Everton. This for Everton was a good point.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, I mean, Everton turned up literally looking for the point as well. They offered nothing else, but I mean, they did the job. Pickford was energising the entire team to make sure they got the point, and the celebration at the end, it was like they won the FA Cup. So, unfortunately, when you're Arsenal, you're going to face teams like this, aren't you? In the same way Man City or Liverpool will. But it is worrying for Arsenal because they had a bit of a spurt back to what people expect them to be doing when Odegaard got back in the side, and since then now they seem to be failing to score from open play again, which is worrying when your main players are Saka, and Odegaard. So it's something they've got to. They just seem a bit flat on occasion, and it's bizarre because they are very good, and they're very good generally on a higher consistency than most teams. They just lack maybe one or two players just to really push through. And then you look at Chelsea and go, Chelsea have probably still got a reserve of players they could pluck out and just chuck in, and something might come out from them. So I think that's the challenge Arsenal face, really, Chris. A bit of depth, probably.
22 minutes gone, and it's still Bournemouth 0, West Ham 0. This is the table. Look, I mean, we're 17th. If it ends now, and I do feel like doing a Donald Trump and saying end it now. It's look that bottom. I mean, I predicted Wolves to finish bottom. But, and Leicester to finish 17th. I suppose the big surprise there, if I'm talking surprises, the two that really surprised me for struggling are Man United and Newcastle.
Yeah, and it's funny because before Manchester United turned it around, I was thinking Man United have only got, what was it before then, 19 points out of 16 games. And I was thinking, if they were to lose to Man City and lose the next game, all of a sudden they're halfway through the season looking at a grand total of maybe 38 points, which is potentially relegation territory. How bizarre it sounds. But so you're right.
It's also splitting into two leagues at the moment, Manchester United and upwards and West Ham and below.
I think that's exactly where it is, Chris. I think that's it. I think everyone above Manchester United and above are going to probably be there, and everyone below us is a bit of a scrap. And now it's a case of we're all racing each other in a drag race to see who can get the new manager up to speed with a group of players quickly to see who can get more points quickly. So hopefully us acting first has been a wise move. I'd be very worried now if we hadn't acted.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah.
Right, it's your tits and ass time. Here we go. What can I say? We're going to start. Hey, there it is. We'll start with your tits first.
Start wherever you want, my friend.
Tom's Inspirational Trophy. That's what we're calling it. There we go. Look at that. Even a new graphic for you.
Oh, mate, I love the little mermaid crown I've got. I look like that sea creature. What would you call that?
I know. I thought you deserved something special.
Oh, it's beautiful.
More of a tiara. Who's up for the Tit Award this week? And this is the good award, by the way.
Yes. Yeah. I guess you can judge if it's good if you're a T or A kind of guy, I guess.
Yes, that's true.
This week we got an interesting situation because we got a first-time nomination, a second-time nomination, and a third-time nomination.
Wow. Okay.
So, Chris, I'm going to throw it at you first. The first-time nomination is going to be for Robinson of Fulham, the left-back, who has been superb and underrated for them this season. He is one of the paciest players in the Premier League, and every time he got at Liverpool, he was causing all the problems. He contributed to all the goals, and he did a post-match interview where I really liked what he was saying about things. So, yeah, Anthony Robinson, number one, first nomination for him. Second time nomination, Amadou Diallo for Manchester United. Understandably turns the game on its head at the Etihad when they are 1-0 down with a few minutes to go. Puts in once again a superb work rate, which Manchester United have been crying out for in their core players for a long time. Gets the winning goal, which is a superb finish as well. So well done to him. Excuse me. And the third nomination for the third time, he's back again, Enzo Maresca. We had to do it. I wanted to avoid putting him up. In some ways, I wonder if he's just going to always be nominated and not quite get there. But ultimately, they're in a title race, Chris, and they don't want to admit it. We'll all say they are. They'll say they're not. They're in a title race, and that deserves credit because obviously he wasn't in charge.
The Jimmy White of the Tit Award is Enzo. Well, obviously
exactly.
You have chosen one of these.
I know. I want to know what you think.
You want to know what I think? Well, I have got to go for Diaye at Manchester United. Interesting today that he got Rude got a lot of praise off Amiron for what he did with him at the club.
Absolutely.
And I think, to see a youngster come through in a derby game away from home, and I know you could say that with Fulham, but the pressure wasn't on. If Fulham had lost this game, it would have kind of almost been expected.
Yeah.
But Manchester United, Man City, anything before this season, you'd have thought Man City would have walked this. I would have gone for Dio. I can't say his name at Manchester United. Diallo.
Well, Chris, I'm going to confirm. You normally agree with me on the Tit Award, and I agree with you. It is going to go this week. Diallo. And for the reasons like you said, he's ultimately a young lad. And at a time when Manchester United are looking for a hero or someone to step up, I'll give him a lot of credit because he is putting himself out there and putting himself in a position where he could be judged, but he is making things happen. And it's not the first time he's done it. Enzo will probably win this award at some point, but there is something quite funny about maybe him getting nominated every week and never getting it. But anyway, Diallo, congratulations. Names will be added to this as well, Chris. I'm going to be adding the names to it.
Oh, brilliant.
You wait till you see it next week. Week after.
Whoever's won it the most at the end of the season, you're going to have to go and find them and award it to them.
I will. I'll go stand outside the training ground and wave this trophy at me. I might do some.
I'll tell you what. I'll say keep a note of, like you say, who's won it, and if somebody's won it more often than anybody else, we'll see what we can do to get them on the channel.
Well, mate, we'll set me up there with like a team of us, and we'll film me trying to go meet him. We'll use this nut job in the Leicester shirt outside Old Trafford.
Right, here we go. New thing here. I'm not saying you're a dunce. You just happened to go with the Ass of the Week award. Who's your friend, by the way, and what are you doing behind him? That's the question.
I nearly said, for some reason, I was sure to say his name is Derek, and he's someone I've known for many years. And look at his smile; he's got a lovely smile. He's a very nice chap. He's more humble than I am as a human being. I'm more than happy to be here.
Love it. Right, sir. Who's your Ass of the Week this week?
Right, let's cause some upset, shall we? Right, the first name, Danny Ward. I've done it. I've chucked it out there because ultimately, Chris, it's what the narrative is out there. I'm sorry. I know we talked about it, but we're going to throw him out there for a nomination because he's a scapegoat, like we say, right? So Danny Ward's the nomination. I'm going to give one to Russell Martin because I think Russell Martin, ultimately, if you're going to go down with your ship and then you go down with your ship, you probably deserve to be put up for the award. So because I said weeks ago he really needs to do something to secure them. Otherwise, he was going to walk himself into trouble. And this is exactly what happened. So I think this is an award that was a long time coming, potentially, as well. And the last person is a person I spoke very badly of earlier, and I hope he heard it, and that's Kyle Walker at Man City. Just because I just think everything that's going on right now at Man City, you need players like Walker in particular, who's been there a long time, to be handling yourself better. And I think bigger than the incident itself, bigger than the other things going on, I think it's a bad example of where Man City are right now, and I think it needs to be highlighted. So,
well, again, I know you've picked it, but for me, and I know everybody out there, all Leicester fans, will be screaming, Danny Ward, Danny Ward.
Yeah.
But basically, for being a prick, I'm going to have to get. For me, I would give it to Kyle Walker.
And I gave it to Kyle Walker as well, as you can imagine, because I didn't speak anywhere half as bad about Russell Martin as I did. Yeah, I don't like it. It's a character defect. I'm sorry, you shouldn't do it.
No, it totally.
So I'm happy to call him out and say he's the ass of the week. So hopefully next week, Carl, we'll give you the top award because you'll do the opposite. Come on.
We live in hope. Thank you very much, Tom, for coming
My
on
pleasure.
and doing that as always. I do enjoy this show. And we are back. Well, you are back with me on Wednesday.
Yeah, I'm back with the mosh pit of us that's going to be in the backstage area. So maybe got
Yeah.
the champagne ready for us all, Chris.
Yeah, I've got. We're going to be talking Christmas, and we'll be. You've all got your Christmas elf names, and pictures are out there. If you look on the YouTube channel, you can see all your little pictures on there on the thumbnail. And come in with your Leicester top and a Christmas hat on and a mince pie.
I've got my Christmas hat out because I thought I was going to leave it because I'm going to be in a different location that night. So I made sure I got it out so I didn't forget. Otherwise, I'd have been wrapped in tinsel. Wrapped in tinsel improvising, Chris.
We are back tomorrow at 7:00. These are our last two penultimate. Well, tomorrow's the penultimate show. Wednesday's the last show before we have time off for Christmas, which I think, well, I need anyway. But and we're going to be talking with Jamie from the Fox's Arms in Alcudia, and we're going to be talking early January transfer window, who he thinks we should be getting rid of and where we need to get covering. So the short program tomorrow, but looking forward to it. Tom, all the best, mate. See you on Wednesday, and thank you as always. Take care, sir.
Thank you, everyone. Cheers, guys. Have a great Christmas, everyone. Cheers.
Thank you. Bye-bye. There we go. Okay, so thank you very much, as always, to Tom. Always a pleasure, and never a pain. So thanks to Tom. Like I say, we will be back tomorrow at 7:00, and then 8:00 on Wednesday. It is 8:00 when we're back for the Christmas special. You'll just see. We'll be here. Tom, I'm sure, will have his normal small glass of sherry, just because he doesn't like to, go too much. The rest of us will be there on the bear, and he'll have his little glass of sherry with a little pinky finger up. We'll see you then. Take care, everybody, and thank you all very much. Don't forget to like the video, share it, and subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. Enjoy what's left of Monday. Christmas is on its way, and as D. Ream once said, things can only get better.
Thank you for watching. Have a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year.
That's all, folks.